Hello, everyone. This is Sam Zakarian, one of the instructors with the Chicago Real Estate School. Today's session is going to involve Chapter 4, Legal Descriptions. So if you go to your textbook, page 44, Legal Descriptions, let me start off with describing land. That first paragraph, it says a legal description is a detailed way of describing a parcel of land for any type of documents like deeds, mortgages, title reports that will be accepted in a court of law, because this identifies no other property but the property in question. Now, this third paragraph down, where it says methods of describing real estate, there are three general methods that are used to describe real estate. The first one is called the meets and bounds description. The second one's called the rectangular government survey system. And the third one's called the lot and block system. Well, again, since the state of Illinois uses all three of them, we need to be familiar with all three of them as well. So, starting with um, two paragraphs down, the meets and bounds method, I want you to highlight and put an X by that one. Now, the meets and bounds description is one of the oldest methods used in this country. It was used when the colonies were first created. But what happened is the United States more than doubled its size with the Louisiana Purchase, more than doubled its size, going from all the way from New Orleans all the way to the Canadian border. That telling people, describe people by their land by going to the big rock or the tree stump, and that wasn't good enough. So that's why they came out with this other system. So let me give you an example and tell you a little bit about meets and bounds description. Starting, I'm going to write this down. Let me get my whiteboard out. You can write this down too. Okay. So this is my legal description, meets and bounds description. Oh, let me make this a little bit bigger, thicker. Starting, I'm going to write this whole thing down and then I'll explain it to you. Starting at my front door, go 90 degrees east. For 1,200 feet. Until you reach, kind of hard to write fast on this one. The big oak tree. Thence, go 90 degrees south for 500 feet. until you reach write this down as I'm writing it down. Reach the river. Thence go 90 degrees west. I'll show you what this property looks like in a moment. For 450 feet until you reach my storage shed. Thence go 45 degrees northwest for 850 feet well, let's just say 800 feet until you reach my front door. This is a meets and bounds description. I'm going to show you what this looks like in a moment. But the last three paragraphs of page 44, I'd like you to highlight and put an X by this. Like I said, it's one of the oldest methods used in this country, used when the colonies were first created. You must always start and end at what we call the POB, point of beginning, also sometimes called point of commencement. Now, a meet is a distance. A meet is a distance from one point to another. A bound is change in direction, which is referenced by what we call monuments. Monuments could either be natural or artificial. A natural monument will be like the tree stump, the big rock, the river. Artificial is anything placed by man, a house, a fence, a garage, even a stake in the woods. So, but what's important, you must always start and end at the same identifiable point. Now, what's important for meets and bounds description? You have to know your compass points, okay? So north, south, west, west is here, and east, north, west, south, and east. What's also important to know on this meets and bounds description is that in a full circle, there are 360 degrees in a circle. In a degree, there are 60 minutes. In a minute, there are 60 seconds. So using this system, you can be very, very accurate within hundredths of an inch in locating property. Now, a full circle is 360 degrees. We cut that in half. We have 180 degrees. A right angle happens to be 90 degrees. In between that, 45 degrees. So, starting at my front door. So let me show you. Now, a few of you might get this one. They're going to show you 4 objects, giving you this description, but I'll tell you exactly what you need to know. Starting at my front door. So here's my house. Starting at my front door. It says I have to go east for 90 degrees. So east is due to my right, all the way over to my right, for 1,200 feet till I reach the big oak tree. So going due east for 1,200 feet till I get to the oak tree. Right there. Now I'm facing the oak tree. So my next step, I need to go south, 90 degrees south. So I'm facing the oak tree. 90 degrees south is going straight down till I reach the river. So going straight down till I reach the river over here. Now I'm facing the river. My next step says I need to go 450 feet till I get to my storage shed, 450, 90 degrees west, 450 feet till I reach my storage shed, which is located right here. And then I'm facing my storage shed. And the last step, I have to go northwest. See, northwest. If you look over here on my compass, halfway in between northwest for 45 degrees, back to my front door. So that's the shape of that property. Now, this is a meet. A meet is a distance from one point to another. A bound is change in direction, which is referenced by monuments. They could be natural, like the oak tree, the river, or artificial, anything placed by man, a storage shed, a fence, anything else. But the most important thing, you must always start here, what we call the POB. POB stands for point. Point of beginning. Now, if you do not start and end at the POB, you have not described anything at all. Now, here's a question that some of you might see. Face this a little bit, if I can. No, it's not working. Okay, let's say they told you your starting point, you started at 38 degrees northwest. Question is, where do you end at? Where do you end? Do you end at 38 degrees northwest? Do you end at 38 degrees southeast? Do you end at 38 degrees, 52 degrees northwest, or 52 degrees southeast? You start at 38 degrees northwest. You will end at 38 degrees northwest. Okay? Make sure you're familiar with that. Now, that's a meets and bounds description. That's everything you need to know about that. Now, let's go on to page 45, second paragraph. They talk about the rectangular government survey system. Again, when the United States more than doubled in its size, telling people you go to the big rock or the tree stump or the river to locate property, it wasn't a good enough system. So this system was created actually by Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson created this system. It's a very, very, very good system. It's an excellent system. It's very easy to follow. Now, where it says principal meridians, some of the features on a rectangular survey system, you could highlight, put an X by the first 2 bullets. Principal meridians that run north and south, and baselines that run east and west. Let me give you an example of that. Okay. Principal meridians run north and south. I need to make this a little bit thicker. So principal meridians run north and south. This is a principal meridian. Baselines run east and west. And these are reference to what we call latitude and longitude lines, which are imaginary lines drawn throughout our entire country. Now, I want to change the color of my pen. So, let me show you. Parallel to the principal meridian, every 6 miles, there's a strip of land called a range. Parallel to the principal meridian. It's very hard to draw this, so just bear with me. Not coming out very straight because, like I said, I'm drawing on a chalkboard and looking on a screen at the same time. So on both sides of the principal meridian, we have these range lines. Range lines are 6 miles apart. So this strip of land going north and south right here is 6 miles wide, is called the range. Now, parallel to the baselines, every 6 miles, there's a strip of land going east and west. These are called ranges. These are also 6 miles wide. So this strip of land going east and west, right here that I'm filling in, is called a range. They're 6 miles wide. Now, township squares. We're on page 46. When the principal meridian, excuse me, let me change that. When the 6 mile wide range over here, for example, intersects with the 6 mile wide tier, they form a 6 mile by 6 mile area called a township. Every single one of these is 6 miles by 6 miles. You see, I'm drawing them all over the place. 6 miles by 6 miles, every single one of them. So this is a township. Every one of these is a township. 6 miles by 6 miles contains 36 square miles. Within every single township, there are 36 1 mile by 1 mile areas called sections. A section is 1 mile by 1 mile. There are 36 of them. I'm going to make it larger in a moment. There are 36 of them. 1 mile by 1 mile areas called sections. A section is 1 mile by 1 mile, contains 640 acres. Now, this, hold on 1 second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one township over here. I'm going to make it larger so you can follow me on this one. So I'm going to eliminate everything here. And I'm just going to make this one township larger. So I'm going to erase it off right now and make it larger. So this is a township. It's 6 miles by 6 miles, contains 36 1 mile by 1 mile area called section. Section is 1 mile by 1 mile. Very important to know, contains 640 acres. So, where the 6 mile wide range over here intersects with the 6 mile wide tier, they form a 6 mile by 6 mile area called a section. There are 36 1 mile by 1 mile areas called sections. On each section, each one of these contain 640 acres. Do not forget that. Now, I am going to erase this part off, and I'm going to put up I'm going to give you a legal description right now. That's what I'm going to do. And get rid of all these lines and all these dots. And I will write this down. It's going to be a long problem. Okay. So here's my problem. The north half of the south half of the northwest 1/4 of the northeast, southwest 1/4, sorry, southwest 1/4 of the northeast 1/4 of section 22 contains how many acres? Now, I'm going to draw this out for you. Not that you need it, but sometimes having a visual will help. So, a section is 1 mile by 1 mile, contains 640 acres. So this is a section. 1 mile by 1 mile contains 640 acres. So I have the section right here. Okay. Out of this section, 1 mile by 1 mile area, what I want is the northeast 1/4. So I'm going to quarter this. And I draw my compass points, north, south, west, and east. And what I want is the northeast 1/4. That's this one right here. I don't want this. See, we're going to locate this property by elimination. So that part's done. So now what I have left over, because all the X's have been eliminated, now I want the southwest 1/4. So I'm going to quarter this again. Always draw my compass points. The southwest 1/4 will be this one here, which means I don't want this. All right, that part's done. What's left over now? I want the northwest 1/4 of this. So I had to quarter this again. By the way, the longer the description, the smaller the parcel of land. So still always draw my compass points. Northwest 1/4 will be over here. So I don't want these. That part's done. Now, what's left over? You always start at the section number at the bottom, work your way up. Now I have I want the south half of what's left over. So I'm going to split this in half. Here I have a north half, I have a south half. I don't want the north half, I want the south. So I'm going to X that off. That's done. Now, what's left over here? Now I'm looking for the north half of what's left over. So I'm going to split this in half again. Here I have a north half and a south half. I don't want the south, I want the north. Now I'm done. The parcel I just described kind of looks, well, does look exactly like this. But the question is, how many acres in this parcel of land? So every section has 640 acres. And what I did is I took a fourth of that. 4 divided to 640 equals 160 acres. 4 divided to 160 equals 40 acres. 4 divided to 40 equals 10 acres. Then I took half of 10, which equals 5 acres, and half of that again, which equals 2.5 acres. The parcel of land I just described is 2.5 acres. Now, that's what a rectangular survey system is. Now, that's just one. You got 3 problems like this at the end of chapter 4. I'm going to give you another problem. Give me 1 second. Yes, I got another problem that's kind of similar to this, but it's a little bit different. So let me erase this. I hope you took a screenshot of it. Let me erase. Doesn't let me erase. Let me see what else I can do. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down a little bit, get back to my pen. Okay, so here's my next problem. It's similar to this, a little bit different. It's called the east half of the northeast 1/4 of the southwest 1/4. Move it over a little bit. And the tricky part is when you get to the word and. And the southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 and the southeast 1/4 of section 12. Now I'm going to draw this out for you because, again, having a visual will maybe help you understand this a lot, but we've got to figure what this is. This is a little bit different. So this is section 12, 1 mile by 1 mile. Now, starting from the bottom, I got section 12 done. Now I want the southeast 1/4, so I'm going to quarter this. As soon as I quarter it, of course, I draw my compass points. So I want the southeast 1/4. That's this one here, which means I don't want this. That's done. What's left over of this? I want the northwest 1/4. So I'm going to quarter this again. Draw my compass points. Northwest is here, which means I don't want this. That part's done. What's left over here, I want the southwest quarter of what's left over. Southwest, east, north, which is here, which means I don't want this. Now I get to the word and. So I'm going to keep what I found, which is this right here. I'm going to fill this in. Then I start all over with section 12 again. So I'm going to erase everything except for what I found. Well, let me get rid of all this. Except for that little part that I found. So now I go back to my section 12. Do this in different color ink. Let me change the color. So, and then I'm going to continue. Now I want the southwest 1/4. So I'm going to order this. I think I drew my lines too much. Hold on a second. Yeah, I need to erase again. Sorry about that. I want to clean this up. Okay. Now, let me draw back my. This is section 12. Okay. Now I want the southwest 1/4. So I'm going to quarter this. Again, I have to do a little bit of erasing because I didn't do too much erasing. Okay, hold on. Now back. All right. I got it now. Sorry about that delay. Now I'm up here. I want the southwest 1/4. So I'm going to quarter this. Draw my compass points, north, south, west, and east. Southwest will be here, which means I don't want this. That's done. What's left over? I want the northeast quarter of this. So I'm going to quarter this again. Northeast being here, I don't want this. And then what's left over now, I want the east half. That's this. East half, west half. I don't want the west, I want the east right here. So I'm going to fill this in. I'm a little bit off on my drawing here. And it kind of forms a kind of L-shaped property. That's what it looks like. But the question is, how many acres is this? So every section has 640 acres. I took a fourth of that. 4 divided to 640 will give me 160. 4 divided to 160 gives me 40. 4 divided into 40 gives me 10 acres. Now I get to the word and. So what I do is I stop, I keep this 10 acres that I found, go back to section 12, start all over with 640 acres. I take a fourth of that. 4 divided to 640 will come out to 160. 4 divided to 160 equals 40. And 2 divided to 40 gives me 20. So 20 and 10. This parcel of land contains 30 acres. Now, let's okay. Let's go on to, let's go to page 50. I'm sorry, 47 now. In the middle of the page where it says correction lines. Every here's the problem with our planet Earth. Earth is not flat, Earth is not square. They try to keep these townships as perfectly square to 36 square miles, 6 miles by 6 miles. Problem is, the closer you get to the equator, they're going to be more than 6 miles square. So they have adjustments. Every 24 miles, which is 4 townships, we have a adjustment for the curvature of the earth. Now, Chicago's a big city, and we do have some areas where you will notice that very much. I'm familiar more with the northwest side of the city. Now, on the far northwest side of the city where Chicago and Norwich meets, if you're going from Chicago and you're going west on a street called Foster Avenue, when you hit Harlem, what happens to the street? It jogs about 100 feet, continues going west. Not only does Foster Avenue, but so does Montrose and Wilson and Lawrence and Agatite and Gunnison and Lawrence, all those streets. That is done on purpose. Those are called correction lines. So now, same thing with Pulaski. Well, at North Avenue, if you're driving down North Avenue, actually, if you're driving down Pulaski from the north and Pulaski from the south, right at North Avenue, it jogs. But not only does Pulaski, but so does Cicero and Narragansett and all the side streets, because those are correction lines. Now, let's go on to page 48, about a third of the way down where it says lot and block system. The third method for describing property is called the lot and block system. Now, the lot and block system is when you take land and divide it into smaller parcels. You have to submit them to the village, whatever you decide. The developer is going to take a parcel of land, divide it up into individual blocks. He letters the blocks, and then he takes a block, divides them up into individual sites, and then he numbers the sites, the home sites, and turns them into the village or city to get approval. Now, commercial property is always valued on front footage, whatever faces the main street. Whether they're renting or buying, the more front footage they have, the more they're going to pay on a main street, because it gives them more space for their signage, gives them more space for displays in their windows. Now, residential property is always valued based on square footage, which is length times width equals the area. That's important for square footage. Let's go to the last paragraph here on 48. Illinois Plat Act. Highlight, put an X by that. That's definitely going to be on the state exam. Whenever a parcel of land is divided into 2 or more sections, any of them that's less than 5 acres must be recorded under the Illinois Plat Act. Again, whenever a parcel of land is divided into 2 or more sections, any of them that's less than 5 acres must be recorded under the Illinois Plat Act. Here, let me give you a couple of examples. I have 100 acres of land. I divide into 2 sections. One is 80 acres, the other is 20 acres. Which ones do I need to record? None of them. Only less than 5. I have 100 acres. I divide into 3 sections. 90 acres, 7 acres, 3 acres. Which ones need to be recorded? Only the 3 acres. I have 20 acres of land divided into, I need 20 acres of land divided into 5 equal sections. Which ones need to be recorded? All of them. 20 divided by 5 will equal 20 divided by 5 equals 4 acres each. Okay. Now, towards the bottom, elevations. You can highlight, put X by that. Now, elevations, to measure the airspace you own in a condo. When you own a condo, you own a condo in severalty, where tenants in common areas. But you get a deed for the airspace in your condo. You get a deed for the airspace. And how do we identify that? By a datum, which is on page 50. It's like the second paragraph. A datum is a point, line, or surface for which elevations are measured. A datum is used to measure the height of a building. It's used to measure the grade of a street. A datum is used to measure the airspace that you own in a condo. What a datum is brass plates. They're located all throughout this country. Right now in Chicago, we're about 600 feet above sea level. There's a number that surveyors can reference to so they can locate the property. Now, these land measurements, let's go over these. These are important. Now, a mile is 5,280 linear feet. Occasionally, you're going to get that. Half a mile is 2,640. A square mile contains 640 acres. Don't forget that. 1 square mile, which is a section. An acre, 43,560 square feet. 1 acre equals 43,560 square feet. You cannot forget that because I guarantee that's going to be covered. I'm going to cover that in the math when we get to the math section. A square yard. Now, a yard is 3 feet long. A square yard here, let me give you an example. A yard is 3 feet. That's a yard. A square yard is 3 feet by 3 feet. Oops, I can't draw it too straight. Sorry about that. Which contains 9 square feet. A cubic yard, you take a box. A cubic yard is 36 square feet. It's 3 feet by 27 cubic feet, sorry. 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. It's a box that's 3 feet long, 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27 cubic feet. Don't worry about the square foot. A township. A township is 6 miles square, contains 36 square miles. Now, a section is 1 mile square, contains 640 acres. And what I like to do is give you exam question. Here, I want to do something for you. Now, this is something where a lot of people get tricked on. This is a section right here. A section is 1 mile by 1 mile. So, if 1 mile, pay attention to what I'm doing right here. This is very important. If 1 mile times 1 mile, 1 mile by 1 mile equals 640 acres. Then, pay attention now, a half mile by a half mile equals how many acres? What do you think? 320 possibly? Wrong. 160 acres. Yeah, I'm going to show it to you. Let's go back over to our section, 1 mile by 1 mile. So from here to here is a half mile. From here to here is another half mile, which only gives me 1/4 of a section. Now, I wanted to make this easier for you. Let's do fraction. I want you to know this. Big mistake. 95% of people get this wrong on a state exam. 1/2 times 1/2. Well, 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 2 equals 4. 640 divided by 4 is 160. You got that? Let's do another one. 1/8 of a mile. by 1/8 of a mile. How many acres do you think that equals? So it's 10. Let me show you. Fractions. 1/8 times 1/8. 1 times 1 equals 1. 8 times 8 equals 64. 640 divided by 64, the answer is 10. Let's do another one. 1/4 of a mile by 1/4 of a mile will equal 40 acres. One quarter by 1/4. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 4 is 16. 640 divided by 16 is 40. Make sure you pay attention. This is wrong about 95% of the time. I got some other math problems, but I'm going to cover those when I get to Appendix A. I'm going to cover all the math problems in Appendix A. That is the end of Chapter 4. Now, I want to remind you, make sure that you do the chapter quizzes. Keep up with them. If you have any questions, you can email the school at support@realestateschoolchicago.com. They'll make sure they forward that to me, and I'll answer any questions you might have. So until the next chapter, keep on studying, and just let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.